Today, I'll be ranking how annoying it is to face every brawler in the game. Now, ever since Shelly got buffed, she has become a menace. She can chase you down, snipe you with her clay pigeons, and shell shock combos well into her gadget. On top of that, she has a hypercharge which makes her faster and stronger. As for Nita, she's not too hard to deal with. Her bear is easy to take down, and you can keep your distance before he stuns you. She can be slightly annoying however if her bear connects to your safe. For Colt, his shots are really easy to dodge, even with his hypercharge. It can be frustrating if he manages to keep hitting your shots though. However, he's very hard to play, so he's not much of a threat. Bull is very easy to pick on the early stage, and his super is pretty vulnerable. Even with his hypercharge, you can just wait it out and attack him. For Brock, his shots are very hard to dodge thanks to his splash radius. He also has a lot of area control with his super, and an escape tool that pushes you back. However, he's not too bad once you learn how to juke his shots. El Primo can be an easy target with his lack of range. However, his super helps close the gap after charging from enough hits. With both of his gadgets and super, you're going to be constantly knocked back by him. Barley has a lot of air control thanks to his attacks and super. His sticky syrup mixer also leaves you open to taking more damage if you try to rush him, though it's easy to move around his attacks and avoid taking damage. Now for Poco, he's not really great at doing damage. His gadgets and super also aren't great at 1v1 situations. However, his screech and solo can be hard to dodge at low health. For Rosa, you can easily pick on her since she has no tools to approach. Meanwhile, her super can be waited out by pushing her back. She can be very menacing if she manages to get up to your face. Jessie's bounce mechanic from her attack is very easy to avoid, and her turret can be easily taken out from a distance. Her spark plug and energized star power does make it harder to deal with. Getting hit by dynamic stun can mark your death. His super can also easily one-shot you with its huge radius. He's only held back by his attack delay, giving you time to dodge. And oh boy, Tick is up next. His attacks are near impossible to avoid from anywhere. Meanwhile, his unescapable super can one-shot you if not taken down fast enough. And if you try to rush him down, he'll just knock you back with his gadget and super. Thankfully, 8-Bit doesn't have too much tricks up his sleeves. His attacks are pretty easy to move around consistently. He's only ever annoying when he bursts you down with his super if you aren't careful. As for Rico, his attacks and super are hard to dodge with walls around. His multi-ball launcher can easily burst you down if you get too close. In the right map, he can make the game straight up unplayable. Luckily, Daryl is easier to handle with his short range and useless kit. His super can leave you vulnerable thanks to its knockback, but he's mostly going to be playing passive as he waits for his super. Penny's splash damage can be devastating if hit by it. Her turret also provides a lot of area control with its burn effect. Even her salty Brawler provides a lot of control if you try to rush her down. Now Carl can deal hefty damage from a distance with his return mechanic. With his flying hook and super combined, he can wreak havoc on your entire team. Unless you're able to cancel his super, it's nearly impossible to beat him up close. Meanwhile, Jackie suffers the same problems as her fellow tanks. Her gadget, super, and counter crush can all be dealt with by just keeping a distance. And while her hypercharge is useful, she still has to somehow charge it up. Although Gus's attacks don't deal a lot of damage, they can be difficult to dodge. His super can also make him very hard to take down in a 1v1. On top of that, his Cookie Popper can help him easily secure kills if you're at low health. Bo is easily countered by juking and outranging his attacks, and you can easily set off his super without taking any damage. However, one stun from his mine is all it takes to end your life. At mid-range, Ems can burst you down quickly for attacks. Her Friend Zoner and super also keep you at that range. She is pretty easy to deal with from either far away or close up. Against Stu, he can be very hard to hit as he attacks you. He can easily keep his distance or rush you down depending on your brawler. But it does take a lot of skill to utilize him, and his DPS is pretty low. Piper is now able to two-shot you from across the map thanks to her buffs. Her super makes her untouchable while letting her break her walls, and her homemade recipe helps confirm her kills at low health. Pam's widespread attacks are pretty hard to avoid. She can be hard to take down once she pulls out her super. Her Scrap Sucker also leaves you pretty vulnerable up close. For Frank, his attacks and super are pretty easy to play around. There's also millions of ways to interrupt him. He's so slow that you can get away fighting him up close. BB can sometimes mess up your game plan with her knockback. If played right, her super can deal massive damage. Thankfully, her attacks are easy to interrupt as well. B is really annoying since she can easily deal 4k damage from a distance. Her super and swell gadget also make it impossible to dodge her charge shots. On top of that, Insta B load allows her to spam even more charge shots. Just like Piper, Nani is now able to two-shot you from across the map. It's also impossible to approach her up close with her attacks and shield gadget. However, her super has a 50-50% chance of hitting, but it's still deadly. You can easily bully Edgar with his abysmal range. Even if he does get close, it's easy to just push him back or escape. He can be a nuisance if you have no defensive options. Griff also doesn't have the best range in the game. Once he throws out his super, he can just move out the way. He can be annoying to deal with up close as a tank. Grom's attacks are somewhat easy to dodge if you move diagonally. The same can't be said for his super, however. He does become much easier to deal with up close. Bonnie's attacks are surprisingly hard to dodge. There's also almost no escape when she jumps onto you. On top of that, her Sugar Rush gadget makes it hard to even hit her. Even though Hank can deal massive damage, he has to wait to charge up his balloon again. His super is also straight up useless unless you're up close. As long as you keep your distance, he really can't do much. Ever since his long dash buff, Mortis has a much easier time approaching. He can be sometimes unkillable if he can chain his super onto your team. You're either going to have an amazing or terrible time depending on who you play. Tara is able to deal heavy damage with her inescapable super. Her support from Beyond gadget can also waste her entire ammo. Unless you deal splash damage, she is pretty much untouchable. Gene's attacks can be hard to deal with at low health. His super also leaves you open to his entire team. Thankfully, his super is really easy to avoid. A good max player can dodge most of your attacks. Her super can also make her entire team untouchable. She's easy to deal with if your attacks are widespread. For Mr. P, his attacks can be very hard to get away from. With his porters, he can constantly waste your ammo. His super surprisingly provides him a lot of cover up close. Sprout's attacks are hard to dodge with the bounce. His super can wall you out and leave you exposed. He does become a free kill if you manage to get on top of him. It can be surprisingly hard to juke Byron's attacks. The same could be said for his super once he throws it out. Against Byron, you're going to have a tough time healing up. Squeak can easily deny areas with his attacks while dealing heavy damage. His super is also pretty hard to dodge, and if you happen to get stuck in his residue, there's almost no escape from his blobs. For a support brawler, Ray can be very aggressive. Once he charges up his super, he can easily delete you from the game. Not to mention his gadget pool, leaving you vulnerable without any walls. Lila is already off to a bad start with her damage overtime. Once she mind controls you, she can waste her entire ammo. It's also difficult to approach her with her super and dive gadget. Just like Edgar, Doug's short range makes him a very easy target. Unlike him though, he has no approach tools to get up close. Even after he revives himself, he's open to massive damage. Now Chuck is already annoying with his super. He's able to travel really far at unreactable speed while dealing 3k damage each time. On top of that, his charging trait means he's always going to have his super. Starting off the legendaries, Spike's attacks are really hard to dodge. His super also leaves you open to heavy damage. Combining its hypercharge and mythic gear, his super becomes a death sentence. Alright, so who's up next? Oh, dear God. Okay, so let me just start out by saying that I hate this bird. He deals overtime damage with his attacks. He denies you from self-healing. He reduces your healing on top of that. He can constantly scout you from bushes. He can assassinate you across the map with his super. And he can slow your entire team with a click of a green button. But Blaze, he has full health. You can just clap him. Well, how about a star power that reduces your damage against him? But he deals no damage up close. Just rush him. Oh really? Rush down someone whose super deals 5k damage. Yeah, but his range is mid. Just zone him. Bro. He has speed. There is no escaping him. But you want to know the funny part in all of this? He has been meta for almost 3 whole years. Supercell, if you're watching this, please just kill this brawler. Because if I have to see this godforsaken bird one more time, I am going to lose my mind. Where was I? Oh yeah, Leon. He can deal some decent damage from far away. Once he goes invisible, he can quickly assassinate you without time for you to react. He can also be really annoying wasting your super on its clones. Although Sandy's attacks are weak, he can peek around walls pretty well. His sandstorm can be pretty annoying trying to find anyone, and getting stunned by his gadget is pretty painful. Amber can deal some serious damage if you aren't careful. Her super can also keep you at low health for a long time. It becomes even harder to play around with her mythic gear equipped. Meg's attacks are really tricky to juke around. It also takes forever to take her down with both forms. Once out of her mech though, she becomes pretty pathetic. For Chester, his attacks are impossible to dodge from far away. It can be really annoying when you're suddenly hit with 7k damage up close. On top of that, he's very hard to predict with his 5 supers. Onto the Chromatic, Gale can really slow you down with freezing snow. Both his super and twister gadget is pretty effective at pushing you back. If you're playing a tank or assassin, good luck ever trying to touch him. Surge's attacks are hard to dodge since they come out fast. He's also able to charge up his super very quickly and attack you behind walls. He's alright in the early game, but can become quickly annoying as he upgrades. Unless you're a tank, Colette doesn't deal a lot of damage. For her super, you can easily move out the way to avoid damage. She can be hard to take down when she's using her gotcha gadget. While Lou can freeze you with his attacks, they're pretty easy to dodge. His super, however, leaves you vulnerable to Lou and his freeze. It's especially painful when you get stuck onto a wall for a long time. Ruff's attacks are easy to juke and don't deal too much damage. You can also just move out the way when he throws out his super. His sandbags can be difficult if you can't pierce through them. The bounce from Belle's attacks can be frustrating with your teammates around. Getting hit by a mark and being stuck with it is also the worst feeling. Not to mention, her nest egg gadget leaves you open to her super. Buzz's super makes him really hard to avoid all the time. The added stun also leaves you helpless as he bursts you down. He can sometimes get away with 1v1 interactions up close just by the stun alone. Ash can quickly rack up speed and damage after a few attacks. His rats make it very hard to counter him as well. If an Ash can maintain his rage, there's no stopping from him dominating you. Lola's attacks are hard to juke while dealing serious damage. With her ego, her damage output doubles as she can easily shred you. In addition, her super provides a nice cover for her at all times. With the recent buffs, Fang has become a menace in the game. He's able to chain his super and teamwipe much easier with fresh kicks, and his roundhouse kick gadget gives him an edge at 1v1s. Eve's attacks are annoying to dodge with the big egg at the end. You're also forced to quickly deal with her hatchrooms as they deal overtime damage. Along with her gadget, star power, and mythic gear, you'll be wasting tons of ammo. Janet's attacks are hard to avoid with its speed and width. When she starts to fly, you can just dodge her bombs. However, her drop the base gadget easily denies her healing while scouting you out. Otis can deal some decent damage from far away if ink refills. Once he mutes you, there's nothing stopping from him killing you. In addition, his fat splatter gadget leaves you less room to juke. You can usually just play around Sam and camp out a super. He can pull you in with his magnetic field gadget, leaving you wide open. And his harder recovery can sometimes make him unkillable as he cycles through his super. With the new buffs, Buster can now do heavy damage with his attacks. His shield is also great at pushing you back even if you don't attack him. And his slow-mo replay gadget makes him very deadly at mid-range. Within my sights, Manda's attacks become really hard to react and dodge. Her super is easy to avoid out in the open thanks to its startup. However, it's still pretty painful to get hit by it just once. Unlike Mandy, RT's attacks are really easy to juke around. Unless he's up close to you, his split form leaves him useless. It does feel unfair when dying to his hacks gadget after getting marked. Maisie's attacks are even easier to dodge with its startup. You can also keep your distance before she uses her shockwave. She can catch you off guard when she combines it with her disengage gadget. There's nothing really too notable about Cordelius' attack. However, he gains a huge advantage once he sends you to the Shadow Realm. His poison mushroom gadget also acts like a mini Otis super. And lastly, Pearl has an upgraded Pam attack that can deal massive damage. Her super also deals heavy damage while blowing up walls. And her overcooked gadget can easily take you out in just one hit. Anyways, that's the end of this tier list. Shoutouts to Charging Metal for helping me record Crow. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more tier lists, and comment down below which brawler you find annoying. Thanks for watching, and delete Crow from the game.